They released the photograph because they had to. When your military needs to prove a carrier is still floating, you've already lost something no picture can restore. CENTCOM posted it yesterday. Flight deck operations, aircraft launching, everything looks normal. But I've been analyzing conflict zones long enough to know that normal-looking photographs during abnormal circumstances are the first sign of a narrative collapsing in real time. Let me tell you what that photograph actually reveals, and why 50,000 Americans are standing at the edge of a strategic trap that most of them don't even realize has already closed around them. Early March, the United States and Israel hit Iran with what officials called the most intensive aerial assault since Iraq's opening night in 2003. Hundreds dead, command structures vaporized, infrastructure burning across 3 provinces. Then came the part Washington is still scrambling to control. The IRGC claimed they struck the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Sea of Oman, missiles and drones, direct hits, heavy damage, forced retreat. CENTCOM denied it immediately, released the photo, put out statements. Carrier operational, no confirmed strikes, flight operations continuing. And I believe them about this specific incident, I do. But here's what I need you to understand, because this is where the math starts telling a story that no Pentagon briefing will ever admit out loud. I've spent my career studying the gaps between what governments say and what the battlefield mathematics actually prove. The Abraham Lincoln debate isn't about whether one carrier got hit by one salvo. It's about what happens when you park 50,000 Americans in a theater designed to bleed them dry through pure arithmetic. CENTCOM confirmed that number through regional outlets in early March. 50,000 personnel across air, naval, and ground elements. That sounds massive until you break it down. 2 carrier strike groups, that's 15,000 sailors and aviators. Air wings at bases in Qatar, UAE, Bahrain. Special operations units running direct action missions that several outlets have reported, but nobody will confirm on record. Add the logistics tail, the fuel handlers, the intelligence analysts, the medical teams maintaining this entire machine. 50,000 people. Not one infantry division among them. This is a force built to strike from distance, maintain air superiority, keep the Strait of Hormuz navigable, support Israeli operations. It is not a force built to invade Iran. That distinction matters because what America deployed was optimized for one scenario only, a short, decisive air campaign against a country that absorbs punishment and negotiates. Iran is not negotiating. Iran is doing something far more dangerous. They're turning this into a math problem that America cannot solve without choices nobody has been asked to approve yet. Here's the equation that should terrify every strategic planner watching this unfold. Iran's drone production runs continuously. Intelligence assessments confirm it. A Shahed 136 costs between $20,000 and $50,000 depending on whose numbers you trust. Iran shipped hundreds to Russia. They've been mass producing these for years. A Standard Missile 6, the primary air defense interceptor on an Aegis destroyer, costs $4.3 million per shot. Let that ratio settle in your mind. 40,000 versus 4 million. 100 to 1 cost advantage for the attacker. But it gets worse, because this isn't just about money, it's about magazine depth. An Arleigh Burke destroyer carries roughly 96 vertical launch cells. Not all air defense, some Tomahawks, some anti-submarine rockets. Realistic air defense loadout, maybe 60 interceptors, 70 in surge configuration, 70 interceptors. Iran can build 70 Shaheds in a week, maybe less if they push production. When that destroyer expends its magazine, it withdraws to reload. Nearest facility is Bahrain or Diego Garcia. Days out of theater. During those days, the carrier it was protecting has one less shield between it and the next barrage coming across the horizon. Multiple analysis pieces circulating mid-March estimated U.S. interception rates between 90 and 94% against Iranian salvos. Let's be generous, let's say 95%. If Iran launches 200 projectiles in one coordinated strike, missiles and drones mix to saturate tracking systems, 95% interception means 190 get destroyed and 10 get through. 10 warheads arriving at a carrier strike group. Some miss, some hit escorts, some might reach the carrier itself. The Abraham Lincoln's flight deck is 4.5 acres of flat steel sitting in open water. It is not a small target. I have no reason to doubt CENTCOM's claim that this specific carrier avoided damage this specific time. But the mathematics don't care about one salvo. They care about the next one, and the one after that, and the continuous production lines running in facilities that no air campaign has successfully destroyed yet. Iran can keep launching. Every salvo forces America to burn interceptors that take weeks to manufacture and ship, while Iranian drones roll off assembly lines that kept producing through sanctions, through isolation, through decades of exactly this kind of pressure. This is attrition warfare, the kind that turns 50,000 troops from a demonstration of power into a strategic liability bleeding resources at a rate the system cannot sustain. But there's a second mathematical problem layered underneath the missile calculus, and it's the one that several Gulf-based analysts have been trying to explain since this operation began. 50,000 troops is not enough to finish what this campaign will eventually require if it continues along its current trajectory. Right now, stated objective is degradation of Iranian nuclear and military infrastructure from the air. Air campaigns can do that, sure. They can destroy buildings, crater runways, eliminate visible command nodes. The U.S. reportedly killed Ayatollah Khamenei and top IRGC generals in opening strikes. Extraordinary decapitation success, if confirmed. And it changes almost nothing about operational capacity of a military structure designed over 4 decades to survive precisely this scenario. The IRGC built redundancy into its organizational DNA. Every Quds Force commander has a designated successor. Every missile battery has pre-delegated launch authority. The system was engineered to function after its leadership is eliminated, because its architects always assumed they'd be targeted first. So the air campaign degrades infrastructure. It does not destroy capability, which means eventually someone in Washington faces the question everyone is avoiding right now. What happens next? If the answer involves ground operations, even limited ones to seize Karg Island or neutralize coastal launch sites, 50,000 is catastrophically insufficient. Iran's regular military is 600,000, IRGC another 190,000, Basij mobilization forces number in millions, though actual combat effectiveness is debatable. The terrain in southern Iran, Zagros Mountains, urban density of cities like Bushehr and Bandar Abbas, is not Iraq's flat desert. It's broken, mountainous, urban, laced with tunnel networks under construction since the Iran-Iraq War in the 80s. Every serious war game run at the Pentagon since 2007 modeling ground operations in Iran arrives at the same force requirement, 300,000 to 500,000 troops for sustainable operations. Same scale as Desert Storm in a country 3 times Iraq's size with 4 times the population. America has 50,000 in theater today. The gap between those numbers is the gap between a strike operation and a generational war, and American military history since Korea is a history of strike campaigns that became wars through incremental escalation that nobody voted for and nobody planned in advance. There's a term for what happens when your force is large enough to provoke maximum retaliation, but too small to achieve decisive victory. The term is trap, not a physical ambush, something more insidious, a strategic position where every available option degrades your position further. Option 1, continue air campaign indefinitely. Keeps 50,000 Americans in missile range for months, burns interceptor stockpiles at rates American industrial base cannot currently replace, ties up 75% of deployable carrier fleet in single theater, produces no political resolution. Option 2, escalate with ground forces. Requires troop commitment, triggering national debate, produces casualties Americans were told wouldn't happen, creates occupation in country where even regime opponents will resist foreign military presence. Option 3, declare victory and withdraw. Sounds rational until you realize withdrawing after Iran demonstrated ability to threaten carrier groups and sustain retaliatory strikes appears regionally and globally as American retreat, and political factions who push this operation will characterize any withdrawal as surrender. 3 options, none good. That's the geometry of a trap. Not physical encirclement, but strategic mathematics where the force deployed is simultaneously too large to abandon without political cost and too small to win without escalation. Americans haven't approved. And here's what connects the missile mathematics to strategic mathematics to the question I need you asking right now. Who benefits from this? 50,000 Americans are in the Persian Gulf. Their ships are being targeted. Their magazines draining. Their operational tempo unsustainable beyond a few months at this intensity. The carrier fleet protecting American interests in Pacific, Atlantic, every other theater on Earth, is concentrated in one body of water for one operation. The math says this operation costs more to sustain than it costs Iran to resist. The math says the force is too committed to quit and too small to finish. The math says every week this continues, America's global strategic position deteriorates while focus remains locked on one country, one region, one set of objectives that appeared in no American strategic interest document published before 2024. I'm going to state what the numbers prove even though few in Washington will say it publicly. This operation, at this scale, with this force structure, doesn't solve an American problem. It manufactures one. The question of who gains from an open-ended American commitment in the Persian Gulf that degrades force projection everywhere else is a question 50,000 service members and their families deserve answered. Because when you're spending $100 to destroy $1 of enemy capability while your strategic reserves drain toward zero, that's not a military operation. That's mathematics working against you. And right now, America is losing that equation one interceptor at a time. And there's one more number I need you to remember because it connects everything I've just shown you to what happens in the next theater, the one everyone is pretending doesn't exist while this operation consumes resources. China has been watching every interceptor fired, every magazine depleted, every carrier tied down in the Gulf. They're counting too. And their math is running in a very different direction than ours. The photograph CENTCOM released shows a functioning carrier. What it cannot show is the strategic trap that carrier is floating inside. And what happens next depends entirely on whether anyone with decision authority understands the difference between looking operational and being sustainable. I've analyzed enough conflicts to know how this pattern ends. The question is whether enough Americans recognize the pattern before the trap fully closes. Because once it does, the only options left are the ones nobody wanted to choose in the first place.